Episode 2, Confrontation.
The episode starts off with Light back in class. I'm starting to think this teacher has a hard-on for Light because there are, again, several instances of children talking or on their phone or playing games or just not paying attention, and he ignores all of them to call on Light. He's just minding his business, busy doing work for not only this class but his other classes too. Like, damn, give the kid a break. The teacher calls on Light and we get another instance of the topic of the day pertaining directly to him. The teacher has him recite the passage.
Having finally made his dream a reality, he was overwhelmed, both by the magnitude of his achievement and by the joy and happiness that it brought him.
This is a direct reflection of how Light is currently feeling. His dream of being able to change the world has finally come true, and he's already achieved so much by wiping out all of the world's major criminals, and as a result, he's as happy as ever. And then all of a sudden we see that Light's not alone in class. His new best friend, Ryuk's, there with him. However, this isn't exactly the excitement Ryuk was looking for when he dropped his notebook in the humor world, as he says,
"I thought it'd never end. How do you do this every day? It's so boring here."
Ryuk tries to strike up a conversation with Light, but Light literally tells him,
"Don't talk to me."
Which, I don't know why, but that just makes me laugh every time I watch it. I don't know if it's because this kid is so brazen when talking to the literal manifestation of death, or just how fundamentally irritated he sounds. Probably both. This does bring up an interesting point though. While it was cool for them to talk while he was alone in his room, it would be a problem if he just started talking to him in the middle of class or on his walk home. It would draw a lot of attention. I mean, think about it. What would you do if you just saw your classmates start talking to someone who wasn't there? It'd be freaky as hell. And it's gotta be kind of difficult, especially given the type of person Ryuk is. The dude just won't shut the fuck up, and the urge to tell him to shut the fuck up has to be practically unbearable. It's a lot of pressure to be under just to not react to this person who's constantly badgering you throughout the day. That, on top of the fact that Light needs to keep his grades up and, be a god, or whatever. Light rushes on so they can get started on the Lord's work, killing people in mass, and this dynamic duo seems to have quite the tumultuous relationship. Ryuk is a very high maintenance friend and is constantly trying to get Light's attention, and it's pretty obvious Light's getting fed up. Ryuk asks Light why he's working so hard, and Light explains that he only has a small window of time wherein he can write names in the notebook. He gives this whole spiel about how he needs to have enough time to study and keep his grades up and go to school during the day and at night, as well as ensuring he gets enough sleep.
"I can't let myself get too tired. It'll start to affect my health and my mental performance."
I found that line particularly interesting because that's not something I probably would have thought of. Sleep is such an important thing to have in a situation like this. When people get too tired, they get irritable and paranoid. It can be extremely unhealthy for a normal person, but imagine how bad it can get for Light. Imagine him not getting enough sleep over an extended period of time and hitting his breaking point with Ryuk in the middle of one of his classes and everyone just sees him yelling at a fucking wall. Or imagine him getting too paranoid and he just starts making stupid mistakes because he's so sleep deprived that his brain is literally not functioning the way it ought to. It could be ridiculously problematic. I guess I find it so interesting because when I was in high school, I had a horrible sleep pattern. Hell, I still do. So it's just kind of incredible that he's managed this level of discipline at such a young age. Anyway, the moment's interrupted when someone tries to come into Light's room. However, the door's locked, something that the person on the other side of the door comments on, which lets us know that locking the door is not something he typically does, but given the nature of what he's doing in here, it's probably best to keep the door locked. Before Light goes to unlock the door and let the person in, he puts the death note away in one of his drawers. Turns out Light has a little sister whose name is Sayu, and she needs help with her math homework. Right off the bat, she feels a lot different than Light. For one, she's coming to him asking for help with homework, and I don't see Light ever asking anyone for help. He'd just find a way to figure it out on his own. But yeah, she just seems like a regular kid in comparison to Light. So, as she goes and plops herself down on his chair, Ryuk drops an interesting bit of information.
"I'd be careful if I were you. If anyone else touches that notebook you've got hidden in the drawer right now, they'll be able to see me too."
This is exactly what I'm talking about. The urge to want to tell this motherfucker off right now must be stupid high. Like, damn, how the fuck are you just gonna casually mention that? I've had this damn notebook for how long and you just gonna drop this shit on me right now? Fucking hell, man. But instead, Light, ever so composed, just says,
"He waits till now to mention that important detail? Damn Shinigami."
You can tell he wanted to say fuck that Shinigami, but Shonen wouldn't let him. He was so caught off guard by what Ryuk just told him that even Sayu could tell that something was wrong with him.
What's wrong? Are you alright?
It's nothing.
It's now that the story switches gears and we're introduced to another side of this world. Thus far, we've only followed Light and Ryuk specifically, but now we're going to be introduced to some other characters and see Light's getting what he wanted, essentially. As he stated last episode,
I want the world to know of my existence, that there's someone out there passing righteous judgment on the wicked.
and they are, but he'll come to find that that's not necessarily a good thing. So the ICPO, which is the International Criminal Police Organization, or Interpol, is currently having a meeting discussing the recent string of deaths of criminals around the world. There have been 52 deaths that have been accounted for, and that's just in the last week. They were all criminals who were either being held in prison or were wanted by police for outstanding crimes. The conversation being had is fascinating because there are dissenting opinions as to what's going on here and what should be done about it. Some of them think it's mass homicide, some think it's just coincidental, others are seeking to find the person or persons responsible for the deaths, while others feel like shouldn't really matter given the nature of most of their crimes. It's just a shit show of people who can't seem to agree on how to proceed given the lack of any real leads to go off of. People are just dying of heart attacks. There's no poison being administered, no one's pulling a trigger or anything like that. It's just death on a mass scale to a specific group of people. How would you even begin to combat that? Also, this line makes me laugh every time I hear it.
I'm sure I'm not alone in suspecting the FBI or CIA.
Fucking shots fired.
Now, this is not the time to be joking around.
Bitch, where was the joke in what he said? He was being straight up. Realizing that everyone is just spouting ideas and the conversation is kind of going nowhere, one of the delegates says this.
So it looks as if we'll have no choice but to bring in L.
And suddenly, everyone shuts up. Alright, so earlier in the meeting we were introduced to these guys. The guy on the right is an officer and the guy on the left is his chief. The officer, acting as the audience's in-story surrogate, asks the chief,
What's this L they're talking about?
and the chief goes on to tell him that L is essentially Batman minus the fucking bat costume and beating up the mentally ill. L is essentially the world's greatest detective, one whose name and face are unknown to practically everyone. And it's like, I like the idea of this, but also it's kind of fucking silly. Like, there's just this detective out there and he works with the police, but no one's ever seen his face and no one knows his real name. It's just a little odd and cartoony, but I mean, this is a world where a 17-year-old picked up a notebook that allows you to kill people by writing their name. So, what the hell am I even talking about? One dude says,
We don't even know how to contact him.
and suddenly this guy just waltzes into the ICPO and says,
L is already on the move.
like, what? Bro, were you just waiting for that? Were you just standing backstage waiting for your cue? What the fuck? I mean, if nothing else, you gotta appreciate the dramatics on that one. That was one hell of an entrance. The guy's name is Watari, and he's the only one who knows L's true identity. He's also the only one who can get in contact with him. He then informs everyone that L is already working on this case. L then delivers a message to them via computer with the bat signal, or the L insignia on it. It also apparently just immediately syncs up with their overhead display for reasons. The scene transitions back to Light and Ryuk as Light figures out a way to deal with the new obstacle Ryuk has presented him with regarding the fact that anyone who touches the notebook can see him, because as you can imagine, that's a pretty big fucking deal. It's easy enough to keep it away from the general public, but his family is another story completely.
Up until now, I thought that if my family ever saw the notebook, I could tell them I was keeping records of various criminals in preparation for becoming a detective one day.
I thought that second part was pretty interesting, the idea that he intends on going into law enforcement one day, further proving that his obsession with justice isn't just an excuse to wantonly murder people. He dead ass wants to bring about legitimate change. He goes on to say,
I don't want to think about it, but if I make one mistake, I might end up killing my own family.
and that just goes to show you how strong his resolve is. He would rather kill his entire family than give up the death note. That's pretty fucking heavy, honestly, but at the same time, it's not as though he wants to go down that route. Right now, he's trying to come up with a plan that can prevent that from ever happening, but then it's difficult to determine whether or not he's doing it because he genuinely loves his family, or because it would create too much of a hassle to kill them all. What do you guys think? Is it love or convenience, or maybe both? Hell, maybe he's just so much of a coward that if it comes down to him dying or them dying, he'd choose them any day of the week. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. Back at the ICPO, El confirms that this is an act of mass murder and that in order to solve the mystery, he'll need the full cooperation of the ICPO. But he goes on to add,
and require additional cooperation from Japan's National Police Agency.
Which is shocking to the officer and the chief, who are both from the NPA. When asked why he needs their help in particular, he goes on to say that he believes that the person or persons responsible are either Japanese or are currently living in Japan, which, I mean, is right, but how the fuck you know that? I'm not knocking his investigative skills, it's just interesting that he came up with that. But even more interesting than that is what he says next, as he claims he'll be directly confronting them, which is just like, what? Back in Light's room, we get to see the mechanism he's created in order to ensure that no one finds the Death Note. It's an interesting contraption, and I'm not going to get into exactly how it works, but I will say that I appreciate this scene for what it tells us about Light. This entire time, we've been told that Light gets good grades and his teacher jerks him off well enough, but this is the anime showing us his ingenuity as opposed to telling us about it, and I dig that. Furthermore, one aspect of this contraption was especially interesting. The fact that, if it came down to it, he's willing to set the notebook on fire as opposed to going down for his crimes. This further adds to the fact that he has no intention of becoming a martyr. He'll burn it all down to the ground before he ever goes away for his crimes. Ryuk does comment on the whole setup being risky, but Light says that this risk is nothing compared to what would happen if he were caught.
It all comes down to a choice. Would I prefer to be executed or deal with a little house fire?
We have some new how to use cards, but it's information that we already saw in the first episode. After the commercial break, we get a newscaster reporting on the fact that an inmate died last night of a heart attack. The individual in question was only 32 and had been convicted of armed robbery. The newscaster goes on to state that he's one of many prisoners who've died recently. We then switch to different voiceovers of people reacting to the news, with people having varying thoughts and feelings about what's been going on with prisoners. Two of the random voices then start having a conversation about someone known simply as Kira. The scene ends with a young girl, can't be any older than Light, posting "Kira, kill everyone" on a website. I just want to point that out because I'm going to come back to that in a minute. The scene transitions back to Light and Ryuk as Light tells Ryuk to come over to his desktop and check out some websites.
Websites like this are popping up everywhere lately.
The legend of Kira the Savior. Is this about you?
Yeah.
Light then goes on to say that people are starting to realize that someone is out there killing criminals, and they've decided to give him the name Kira, which he comments is derived from the English word killer, which seems appropriate, right? Essentially he's saying,
They know there's someone out there passing righteous judgment. Well, you can bet that everyone would give the politically correct answer.
It's just wrong to kill people.
He then goes on to state that when people are in public, they're forced to answer this way to keep up appearances. He says people don't want to acknowledge them in public, but on the internet, they show their true colors.
But on the internet, where you can remain anonymous, support for Kira is growing.
He then adds that people who haven't done anything wrong aren't worried, but people who have done wrong are scared.
This is how it should be. It's perfect. Everything is going just like I planned.
Okay, let's pause for a second. This whole sequence is... it's fucking nuts, honestly. I guess the thing that's really trippy is that this series came out in 2006, and it's just so ridiculously attuned to the reality of people and their relationship with the real world versus their relationship with the internet. The fact that people feel empowered by anonymity, enough to say things that they wouldn't say in the real world. It's fucking wild how accurate that shit is, specifically. Like, damn, and the fact that this seemingly normal looking girl is the one posting shit like, Kira, kill everyone. The show provides you with this perfect what the fuck moment in having her be the one to post something like that. I mean, think about it. If you were to see that post without a profile picture to accompany it, your mind wouldn't immediately go to the individual who posted it looking like this. It goes to show you that you can't judge a book by its cover. The same can be said about Light. You look at him, you see a smart, successful young man. You don't think he's a fucking mass murderer? It's just... man, it's good. Also, when it comes to all of those voiceovers, it's interesting to see how the general public is taking this news when talking amongst their peers. Some of them have theories as to who's responsible.
I wouldn't be surprised if the police were behind this.
Some sound concerned for others.
Just make sure you don't do anything bad.
And some sound almost fucking excited by the prospect of people dying.
I wonder who's gonna be killed next.
everything is going just like I planned.
We're bringing you a live worldwide broadcast from Interpol's ICPO.
And what do you know? It's L, the mysterious man who claims to never show his face, is now on live television, showing not only his face but his full name. That's odd. He's it's kind of fucked, right? I mean, name and face. Jeez. Drop the ball on that one. Am I right, guys? I'm assuming anyone watching this video has watched the show, so anyway. So L speaks directly to Kira, claiming that he'll find him and arrest him.
I will not rest until the person or persons responsible are brought to justice. I will hunt you down. I will find you.
So it's clear that L isn't messing around, but Light just laughs it all off, calling him a fool. He's super cocky about everything, right up until L says this.
What you're doing right now is evil.
And suddenly the whole fucking vibe changes. Like, this dude went from laughing L off to fucking going off. Like, look at this shit.
I am justice. I'm the one who will become the god of a new world. All those who would oppose that god, they are the ones who are truly evil.
He just absolutely loses his shit on L. It's unsettling because up until this point, this guy has been chill as hell, but then he just loses it. And what makes it even more unsettling is considering what he's been chill about so far. No book that kills people, it's a little unsettling, but no biggie. Watching a man get ran through by a truck, stressful, sure, but I mean, it's cool. Shinigami, I mean, scary, but just give me a second. Possibly having to kill his entire family. Whatever it takes, I know I can make it through. Disrespecting him? You got me fucked up. I just finished watching Avatar with my girlfriend not too long ago, and this just reminds me of all the times Kyoshi didn't show up for Aang when he needed her. But when this town was talking shit about her, she dead ass takes over his body to put them in their place. Like, it's ridiculous. So obviously Light writes Lin's name in the Death Note. I mean, look at his face as he does this. Jeez, look how big he wrote his name in comparison to everyone else's. Dude is pissed. But what's really important about this moment is that Light just killed an innocent man, which shows us that he isn't just willing to kill those who find out his secret, he's willing to kill anyone who so much as talks shit about him. The first episode framed him to be someone who wanted to make the world a better place, but in this episode we see that when it comes down to it, he's just some crazy fucking serial killer. But yeah, 40 seconds pass and Lin dies. Just like that, and Light wins. He laughs and gloats and everything, and yeah, it's a wrap. Except, no, it isn't, and he doesn't win because that wasn't really L. That was just a dude named Lind L. Taylor. The real L then shows up and says, "Gotcha, bitch!" This man is shook. L then goes on to just clown on Light for like 2 minutes. Not only was Mr. Taylor not L, he was just some random criminal on death row who was set for execution tonight anyway. The guy had been arrested in secrecy, so there wasn't any public information that Light could have used in order to find out about him. Not only did L find out that Kira can kill people without having to physically be there, but remember this little clip?
A live worldwide broadcast.
So that was a fucking lie.
This was only broadcasted in the Kanto region of Japan. L had deduced whose Light first victim was and acted accordingly. So, like, shit, man. Light really dropped the ball on that one, like, hella hard. Not only that, but L straight up called on Kira to kill him, demanded that he do it, but without knowing his real name or what he looks like, Light can't do shit, making him look like a little bitch, bro. L just shat on him harder than I've ever seen anyone get shat on. This is that post-Chipotle shit, man. Stanky and watery.
To be completely honest with you, I never expected that things would go this well.
Oof. Too easy, as the captain so eloquently put it.
He proved that Kira exists, that the deaths were murders, and that he is here in Japan.
The episode ends with Light regaining his composure as Ryuk thinks,
each of them has to hunt down the other without knowing the other's name or face, and the first one whose identity is revealed will die.
The episode ends with each of them vowing to find the other.
I will hunt you down wherever you're hiding, and I will eliminate you. I am justice.
And roll credits. That's all, guys. Remember to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Until next time, later.